Welcome to the Being Soul Confident podcast with me, your host, Nicola Tonsaga, the podcast where we are talking all things soul, where we're widening the conversation about what soul is so that you can trust it, live it, be it, so that you are being soul confident. Hello and welcome back to the Being Soul Confident podcast. I have got the most incredible lady with me today who I know we're going to have the most incredible conversation. She's an absolute spiritual powerhouse. I know she won't mind me saying that. So without further ado, welcome. We've got the gorgeous Marina Beech, the Soul Alchemist. So welcome, Marina. It's a real joy to have you here. I know we're going to have a really expansive conversation.
Thank you, Nicola, for inviting me along.
Can I ask you just to introduce yourself and to share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So, as you've already said, I'm Marina the Soul Alchemist, and I run a spiritual business supporting mainly female entrepreneurs, new earth leaders to really step into their next level, have their next potent breakthrough. And I do that through my work with the Akashic Records, with Pendulum Alchemy, and through my Oracle card deck as well. So I mainly work with the Akashic Records. That's my realm of choice, as it were. And I've been in business. This is my 8th year of running an online spiritual business. So yeah, it's very exciting. And as well as supporting my clients, I also teach my clients, but it's all about empowerment. I'm very big believer in empowering us ourselves to facilitate the most incredible experience that we can have whilst we're in this human incarnation.
Yeah. And I think empowerment is really important, isn't it? Because I don't know about you, but it's very easy sometimes to give our power away, and it's also very easy to be disempowered. So actually really being able to hold that energy within yourself and lead from that can change so much. But also it supports other people in the most incredible way as well. As women we do that, that becomes really inspirational and empowering for women as a collective, doesn't it?
Absolutely, we give permission to be able to do that, but also demonstrate that it's safe to do that as well. But there is so many layers to sovereignty and empowerment, especially as being a female. We're kind of doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for the collective, and we're also doing it for our ancestors, which is just beautiful.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, well, I know you'll get this, but there is so much that's shifting energetically from a multi-dimensional perspective, isn't there? I mean, I'm aware of timelines. I know you are too, where there is so much kind of generational, collective, karmic, ancestral healing, realignment, if you like, that's taking place as well as we work. So it's not just for us, it's not just for the people in the world right now. It really does have an impact in a much wider way, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it's the ripple effect. And any work that we do, whatever it is that we decide to do from an energetic perspective, we are supporting our future generations, where we are the ancestors. It's all the unborn conscious souls that are coming in. We're supporting them, but also, depending if you believe in reincarnation and whether you're choosing to come back, you're also supporting your next incarnation as well. So we want to get the work in so that it's just absolutely blissful when we come back.
That is actually a really good way of looking at it, isn't it? So you're kind of supporting your next incarnation.
Absolutely, your future self. Yeah,
that's really interesting. So I do and I don't believe in reincarnation, in the sense that, and we'll get on to talking about soul because obviously it's being called soul confident. But I've had past life experiences, and I trained as a regressionist many years ago. But one of the things that my work with soul has led me to believe, and I believe it very strongly, is that it's soul as a collective. So when we pass and we go into we go back to spirit. The soul aspect, if you like, that's been part of me is absorbed into a collective energy. So everything that soul has experienced through me within this lifetime, who I am, will be absorbed into that collective energy of soul. And so when an aspect of that soul chooses to incarnate into a future person, it's not necessarily my soul that is reincarnating, if that makes sense. But that aspect of soul that reincarnates will bring with it the opportunities, the challenges, the ability, if you like, that energy has, that physical being, human energy has, to move through any resistance, any limitation that it does have. So I don't necessarily believe in personal reincarnation, but I do believe that everything we are gets absorbed into the collective. And then when there is a reincarnation of a soul aspect, there is learning, there is guidance that then that human being is able to work through, that enables the expanse, the freedom, the energy of soul to actualize through the human experience. So we're sort of still.
That makes sense. It's that, I mean, it's a very interesting kind of view, but it kind of makes sense what you're saying as well. And I'm just kind of just linking that to the Akashic Records and how that works. So that's, it's very interesting.
Yeah, and of course, there's no opinion that's really right. There's no opinion that's wrong.
Oh my gosh, no.
It's our own truth. It's our own understanding, isn't it? And I guess until we are back in that space, we actually don't really know.
No.
So, Marina, what is soul to you? Can I ask?
Soul to me is for me, I would denote it as my creative spark, my essence, and I feel closest to my soul when I'm doing creative activities, I suppose. Not all creative activities, but some creative activities, when I am in bliss, in those moments of bliss. And bliss for me, as I've already said, creativity, which could be dancing to like a piece of music where I just lose myself. Also, moments of bliss for me are sitting and just capturing those short moments of sunshine through a window, and it's just really quiet and I can just close my eyes and go within. Those are moments of bliss for me. So for me, that sums up soul to me, is moments of bliss that you have in your human incarnation, and you feel the closest to that soul spark, that soul essence. That's from a human's perspective. That's what soul would mean to me.
And what's been your journey to, I suppose, realizing that, understanding it and allowing that?
I think a lot of it is following my intuitive nudges and allowing things to align and fall into place so that I have the experience most of the time that I want to have. So following the soul nudges to follow my creativity, to play music, play instruments, to do fine art as a degree, which is the most unemployable degree that you could ever do. But it was kind of like, that's what I need to do. But I found my way and I went into retail and forged a creative career in retail through like visual merchandising and stuff like that. So there's always a way for me to find a way to turn that. So it's following the soul nudges, following my intuition. And what I've come to realize is that the soul is using the human experience to express itself, express divine source through the physical body. And whatever your creative expression is, whether that's teaching, whether it's something a bit more creative, or maybe it's working on spreadsheets and, you know, doing all that analytics or scientific stuff, that is your creative expression. And for me, that's what the soul has come to learn about itself more through whatever form that is. But if you are ignoring your desires and your talents and your gifts, or not nurturing them, because for whatever reason, it doesn't feel safe to nurture them, you've not been given that opportunity, or there's limiting beliefs, whatever it might be, then there's more of a disconnect with the soul, I think. For me, it's all about expression.
And I would agree with that actually, because I think from a soul purpose perspective, if I look
Yeah.
at the purpose of soul as opposed to the purpose of our individual soul, I think the purpose of soul is to actualize through the human experience. It's to be fully embodied, it's to be fully free. And
Yeah.
of course, it can't do that if we are not as freely ourselves as we can be, if we're not as fully expressed within our own energy, within that aspect of divinity within ourselves. It becomes very difficult for soul to express fully and freely through us. So I would absolutely agree with you with that. Is it soul that led you to the Akashic Records?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was not finding it myself. So it was just like consciously. So it was just like I was very much in my ego, but in fear as well, because I'd been made redundant numerous times from my corporate career. So I was seeking, what's my purpose? What's my mission? I need to get involved in something because I'm driven and motivated. It's just that's just the way I am. Some of that could be programming, but I don't think it is. Don't feel it is. So I was getting very frustrated with not having something that I could start to almost latch onto, I suppose, and nurture and grow. But it was my soul that led me through various kind of like routes on my spiritual journey, beginning of my spiritual journey, and eventually watching a Facebook group live in the Angel Cafe, which is hosted by Ashley Mooney. She still does that cafe. And this was 8 years ago. And there was a lady on there that was doing stuff around the Akashic Records, never heard of those. It was like, okay, I'm feeling drawn to watch her live on my phone. And she'd asked for some details, like to access the records whilst on the live. And I thought, well, she's going to be able to tell me my purpose and mission, so very much kind of giving my power over, straight over, tell me what to do, which has been a massive lesson for me just in itself. And so she revealed to me that my master program, which I thought was going to be, some purpose and direction, was alcoholism. And I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And so she cleared this program of alcoholism, this master program, out of my Akashic Records with a pendulum in 10 seconds. And what I hadn't admitted to anybody, even to myself, that I'd actually got a psychological addiction to alcohol. And because of the shame and the kind of not being able to solve this for myself, being a very capable career woman with a young, family, this switch went off in my mind in terms of the constant battle that I was in, conversations that I was having myself in what choices and actions that I was going to be able to do or not do, to not have a drink. So that switch went off. And so indirectly, I was given my purpose and mission with then wanting to know what the Akashic Records were so that I could support others, maybe not with such a potent breakthrough, but giving the sovereignty back, being able to open up for the healing journey, which obviously when I was constantly having that going on in my head, there was no time for doing any self-reflection or any of that type of stuff because I just haven't got the mental space for it. Also, my ego needed something really big to show me that energy healing and this type of, working in this realm works. So that was my soul-led nudge that led me to that catalyst to me then being on this journey.
And that's quite a powerful, potent nudge, isn't it?
It is. And I know that my ego needed something big. So it was like, okay, so the universe delivered. And my soul was just like, you need to be there. You need to be watching this. And then, I listened and then I just allowed whatever needed to unfold. And I've continued to follow the breadcrumbs and the soul nudges and the urges and, and it's continuing to work out for me, because it's the way that I operate.
And is that when you talk about the soul nudges and allowing things to unfold, is that something that you see and feel as kind of that soul experience, that soul journey, in that it's not about, and obviously we have to take action, but it's
Mm.
actually about just allowing yourself to listen, see, know, and then to follow that urging, to follow that urging, to follow that urging.
Yeah, for me, it's a knowing, but it's like the right piece of information shows up and I see it, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to follow that. And it's not even like I'm having that conversation or that thought. It's just like, well, this just feels right, so this is what I'm going to do next, or this is who I'm going to follow next, or this is who I'm going to contact next. And that's how my journey is unfolded. It's a mix between knowing and this sense of it feeling right.
Yeah.
Because I know what it feels like when it's not right. And that demonstrated itself with my partner at the time, husband now. And we got together, and my ego had a real battle with me stepping into that relationship because there was just certain visual things that he just wasn't my type, all of these things. It was kind of like, my ego's like, no, he's not the right person and all of this. And we got together, and then after 2 weeks I was like, no, this is not right. And my soul on that breakup was just like, you have made such the wrong choice, because he is the right person for you. Obviously my soul wasn't saying that, but that's how I felt. It was just,
Yeah.
and so I reinstated the relationship, and like we literally yesterday celebrated not our marriage but getting together yesterday on St. Paddy's Day, because he's Irish. 29 years.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, so I knew what it felt like when I'd made an incorrect choice from a soul's perspective, and I've not had many of those experiences that strongly. That was a very visceral, this is the wrong decision, you've made the wrong choice. Very
So, and
interesting.
yeah, and it is interesting actually, because there's a balance, isn't there, within life of, and I don't believe in an absolute fated destiny. So I
No.
believe that we meet a potential. As we meet a potential, we expand into a different potential. The choices that we make open different doors, and we can choose to walk that path. We can choose to walk a different path. So it's always potential on what we're willing to meet and what we're willing to open into.
Yeah.
Um, but it's really interesting, isn't it? Because there are moments where it's a really big yes or it's a really big no. And you just feel that with kind of every fibre of your being. And so I don't believe in a fated destiny, but I do believe that there are moments that we have within life that are absolutely destined to be, and they're catalysts, they're doors, they're opportunities, they're activations. And it
Yeah.
sounds very much as though that's a real soulmate partnership that you have as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely soulmate, in terms of obviously growth lessons, and we're teaching each other lots of things, but
Yeah.
he's very supportive, and I this is always good in reflection afterwards, but I can see that our relationship that we have, has allowed me to really expand and be here doing what I can do to support others. It's the right nurturing relationship that I needed, and space to do the work that I've stepped into,
Yeah.
because not all relationships would have supported that at all. Give me the freedom and the independence, basically.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because actually, there's a lot of relationships that when people start to develop a greater alignment with their spirituality, with soul, that actually relationships drift apart. So to have a relationship that has such a longevity is just, it's just wonderful.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, we've been through those phases as well,
Yeah.
So yeah, but we are growing together.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't believe in anything that I'm doing, but he's very supportive of it. And he can see that absolutely lights me up, and it is my soul's purpose and mission. So he's like, crack on.
Go for it.
It's fine.
So you've talked about ego a couple of times. How do you differentiate, or how would you describe the ego versus the soul?
Ego for me personally is there's a lot of fear connected, fear, potentially fear-based decisions that can come from the ego for me personally. And also I think wanting to do well and be recognized for that. That's not so much something that I think is there now, but certainly there has been a lot of inner child stuff that, being praised, being validated, doing the best that I can and being recognized and seen for that. I think my ego definitely, and that is a driver, a motivator that has underpinned some of my ego's directive, I think. Not so much now.
But that driver is still part of who you are, isn't it? In terms of that passion and that desire and that sense of really wanting to live into your purpose.
Absolutely, but I'm not seeking validation from others to do that. Whereas before I may have done, to be recognised. Oh, good, you're doing a really good job, or you're lucky because you found your soul's purpose and mission. I don't think I've ever had anybody say that, but now it's just, it comes from more for a place of service and it's more of a collective support, I suppose. And again, coming back to sovereignty and empowerment, it's coming from a place of service, I think, more than anything else. And just empowering others.
Yeah. And so would you say that then if there's a real sense of alignment with soul and there's a real sense of soul connection, that there is almost an automatic alignment with your own sense of validation as opposed to seeking it externally?
Absolutely.
Really knowing and feeling it within you and not having to have it acknowledged externally by anything or anyone else.
Yeah, and I think that's the massive part of the spiritual journey, is coming back to self, and the self-love piece and the awareness of patterns and behaviors and triggers and programming and conditioning. It's all part of that journey. And I think you do get to a point where you really, I mean, gosh, we're not done by any means because there's always more layers and depth, but
absolutely.
I think the more we are on this ascended path and we're ascending as a planet, the awareness is just becoming, it's like you're constantly noticing yourself with almost anything that you're doing and potentially questioning it or accepting it or doing a quick kind of like cancel alt delete or whatever it might be. There's just that heightened awareness. And I think that is where we don't need the validation because we're more secure in ourselves. I think it's accepting of ourselves. It's the acceptance, isn't it?
Yeah. And does that create a greater freedom for you? A greater freedom in what you do, in how you do it, in how you express yourself, in how you move through life?
Yeah, it does. But I think for me personally, there's still an element of being very hands-on and practical. And so I do need that element of repetition to also feel that confidence and have that self-belief. But I am more of a natural risk taker anyway. From a human design perspective, I have a profile line 3, so I fail forwards, if fail is the right word. So I very much am an explorer, hands-on. Is that working? Is that not working? And I don't tend to really question if it's not worked out. I don't make myself bad or wrong. I never have done. It's like, okay, what's the next thing that I need to try? And that's always been my approach to life in general. So, but yeah, I think awareness has helped me hugely on my journey. And I think the more that we can bring that to our own lives, the more that we accept and love ourselves.
Yeah. And I think self-awareness is huge, isn't it? Sometimes we can't shift anything that we're not aware of, and that ability to witness ourselves um,
Absolutely.
is so powerful. So talk to me about your journey in terms of what you're bringing forward with the work that you do with Akashic Records, Marina.
Okay, so it's really interesting actually because I have stepped more into my authority, as it were, and that's part of my identity and owning what I do. I think launching two certifications has really kind of helped me to embody that.
Yeah.
Um, and the journey that I'm on at the moment is really with my card deck, which is really interesting because they're two, like at this point in time of recording, they're 2 years, pretty much nearly 2 years out into the world. And I am just feel like I'm just scratching the surface of what I've actually created because we know what we know. And
Yeah.
sometimes we have to have things reflected back to us to actually understand what something like that particular modality or tool or whatever it might be actually does for other people. And so I'm really understanding now that I've created something with my guides that is far surpassed what I actually first intended, and it's expanding in it, and it's become its own entity in itself. And I'm just feel like I'm scratching the surface on this deck that's actually a healing portal, which I keep saying, and it's almost maybe I've manifested it as well through intention initially when I made the cards, but I keep saying, and I have said for a long time, 18 months at least, this is a modality in a box. This is a modality in a box. This is a healing tool. And I'm now recognizing that there's all of these portals in the cards, and
Mhm.
people actually do get healing shifts by having the cards just left out and just asking for the healing to come through the card. This is people telling me that this is what they do with the cards because that was never in my kind of remit, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so this is what I feel actually my legacy is with this card deck, and I don't know where it's going to take me. I'm just enjoying the process. I am understanding them more deeply, and it's only through doing certifications and now I've got my membership that I actually learn more. I have to be in there doing it to then actually step out or reflect on it, and it's like,
Mm.
okay, what was that? um I don't have the concept first and then go and do it. I have to be in it and then work it out afterwards.
Yeah.
That's my process. So that's where I'm at. So I'm just going to see where I go with this card deck, which for me is just a beautiful tool to have something that bridges the gap from a very practical human level as a tool that bridges the gap into an esoteric realm that can activate healing, but also give you guidance and also influence your future as well.
So when you think about the card deck, because I work energetically with soul signatures, and what I've learned as I've worked with soul signatures is that the more energy and focus and work I do with them, the more they expand, the more they
Absolutely. It's
evolve, the
like
more they give back.
you're feeding the
Absolutely.
entity. Yeah.
And it sounds as though it's almost exactly the same with your Akashic card oracle deck is that actually the more people work with it, the more they
Yeah.
invest in it, the more they connect into it, the more it opens, the more it expands, the more it flows, and it just becomes more and more and more and more.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's an expanding entity, thought, not thought form, but it's an energy in itself, isn't it? So, and you're right, the more people that tap into that and start
Mm.
to feel, sense, experience the magical shifts that come with using the deck, it adds more magic and potency to it. So, I mean, there's a lady on there that's, she's one of my benchmarks almost, reflectors back. She's completely blind. And she's
Oh
done
my
my
goodness.
certification and she uses my cards. She's done that card certification and she talks about the energy of the cards because obviously she can't see them. And she does card readings and all sorts of stuff. She does the Akashic healing. And it's just incredible to hear her journey and how she uses them I'm just fascinated by. But that is like, you know, if there was validation that I needed, then that is the
That
validation.
is it. Yeah. Which is, and that's so brilliant, isn't it? So brilliant.
Yeah.
So with your card deck, because obviously there are lots of people that are interested in Akashic Records. There are lots of people that actually seek Akashic Record practitioners, if that's the right word. There are lots
Yeah.
of people that are actually doing training to be able to facilitate kind of access, healing, clearance through the Akashic Records. Is your card deck just a really beautiful, natural way to access that without necessarily having to have lots of knowledge about the Akashic Records, lots of knowledge about kind of the background of it? Is that its power in that it's just a really beautiful, easy way of connecting into it almost
Yeah.
straight away?
Yeah, exactly. And I purposely made the cards very high vibrational, very touchy-feely, very luxe, so that straight away your connection, as in your body language and holding the cards and using the cards, feels special. So just that in itself is just like, okay, this is going to be a nice deck of cards too. So straight away you're opening yourself up to, okay, I'm available for this. I want to use these cards. So that really helps. And then obviously there's coding and the gold that's used in there. It's very high vibrational. And for me, that's the gold is one of the connections to the Akashic Records is through that color. So making the connection for the user very easy. But also the other symbol that I use that is for me the key part of connecting with the records as well as a symbol is a key. There's keys throughout all of the cards. So that is, again, this subconscious coding that has been placed. But yeah, you're right. Using a deck of cards is, as well as crystals, people are kind of like, edging into crystals. If they're getting onto the spiritual path, then usually crystals will feature right at the very beginning. Oracle cards is another tool that people will start to dabble in, and it's good because tarot, depending on what people's upbringings are and what they've listened to, tarot just might feel a little bit too serious, perhaps a little bit too hard as well. For me, tarot are quite a strict modality in terms of really, having to follow the messaging of each of the cards. And oracle cards really allow you to tap into your intuitive gifts. And that's, for me, the difference between tarot and oracle cards is that they really support you opening up your psychic gifts, which I don't think tarot, for me, I read tarot for years. I had my first deck at 17. And for maybe 10, 15 years of those, I was reading from the book because I did not want to get the message wrong, to what it was supposed to be. So, and I couldn't remember it. So it was just like, okay, so this is what this means. And if it's reversed, this is what this means. You know what I mean? So there was no intuitive expression coming through at all. Whereas oracle cards, it's just like, it encourages you to open up that side.
Yeah, I do. I think I had my first tarot deck when I was 19. I was really ill one Christmas, and my mum got me this book out of the library, which was fortune telling. And then I bought a pack of tarot cards, and I did do the thing where I learned all of the meanings. And then when I started to do some readings with them, there is intuition that flows, but the intuition sits on top of the meaning of the cards. So they can be a useful tool, but I do think they've got a little bit serious over the years. And I do think there is a freedom that we have to explore ourselves when we're working with oracle cards.
I think so as well. Yeah.
And it sounds to me with your Akashic deck that you are changing the way we think of and access the Akashic Records.
Yeah, I think from the teachings that are out there, which is why I created my first certification, which teaches slightly different access methods. But the main one that I use is to use it very consciously with a pendulum. And you're like a psychic detective, and you're asking lots of questions, and you're pulling that information out. And it's a fast process. But I think historically to that, the teachers have like, we do our invocations, we go in, and I'm a big fan of that because we're just setting the scene. But, we've got to go into meditation, and we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And for me, I'm not visual. So that's that, I'm very good at leading people on a journey, and I'm be quite descriptive, but I can't see anything. So, I've got nothing that validates the fact that I'm in the Akashic Records, other than I know that I'm in the Akashic Records because I've asked to be in the Akashic Records. So there's a real sense of authority in that. And I just know that. So having a tool that you can actually see where you're connected with your intuition or your soul, because when we go into the Akashic Records, we collect with the soul of the person. You've got physical kind of movement, or you're pulling the card and you're directly connecting in that way with something that's very conscious, and you're being able to then really tap into the records and just absorb and download the information by using your senses, or using a pendulum, or using a pen. If you're kind of doing automatic writing, which is more of a semi-conscious way, it's not a very conscious way. But yeah, you're right. I'm here for making it as fast and as easy as possible because we haven't got loads of time. Well, let's say we can spend time, but let's be realistic. We can be time poor in terms of where we place our time. And I don't want that to be the excuse that people use to not have this sense of devotion for themselves with their intuition and their soulful connection and all of that. So if I can take some of those barriers away, then that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. But also, do you not believe that energy is also accessible in a much faster way than it ever used to be before? It's we don't necessarily have to sit in meditation and bring ourselves to that place of stillness to really feel the energy, to know the energy that's actually around us. It's as we expand, that connection is just more instantaneous, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's because it's been spoken about as well, so people are starting to really feel that or understand that. So yeah, you're right, we can just go outside and place our hands on a tree, and it's like, if you're a feeler, I feel it either, you see. So it's like, well, I know that I'm connected to energy, but I've got nothing to confirm that. I've just got to trust that I'm connecting to energy here. But of course I will be, because it's a living thing. But yeah, you're right, we can just intend, okay, I'm now connecting in with my higher self in next week to do whatever, and it's done.
And it's actually that, and you've mentioned it a few times in terms of just knowing, but actually trusting that knowing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's
trusting in that moment, isn't it? Particularly if we're not used to it or we're new to it, and there's a little bit of validation that we're used to seeking, and it's a little bit. I used to work as a medium, and as you go through your mediumship journey, that tangibility of that spirit connection becomes less because the energy is refined and you just know it. So there's a real sense of knowing, but there's a real sense of trust that has to come with that.
And that only comes through practice. We've got to do the very human thing and practice and practice and practice. Sometimes we'll get the feedback, but and other times we won't. But if we've got that desire to continue on with the journey because it feels right, and that's where the soul comes back in, we just know that it's the right thing that we've got to follow, then we have the why, and we'll just continue to do that.
Absolutely. Marina, it's been a joy to chat with you. If there was something that you wanted to leave our listeners with, what would it be?
To really explore your soulful self, but find the tool which is going to really help that. So I know that for some people it's journaling, for some people it's going to learn an energy modality. I would definitely, invite you to seek out the Akashic Records because we all have one. And for me, that's very much fast tracking your connection with your soulful self and learning more about yourself at a soul level. using that realm, but that realm's not for everybody. If it is, it will definitely find you, and it will keep tapping on the door until you listen. That's what I find. But find your thing, immerse yourself in that, and watch the magic unfold, because the magic will unfold when you are listening to that part of yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a beautiful thing to finish with. And I think there is that ability sometimes to just immerse yourself in the thing that is lighting you up, that is calling you. And as you immerse yourself, you just open that door to possibility, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, tenfold. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing this time with us. It's been a joy to talk to you. And I do actually have Marina's card deck. So I will make sure that all of Marina's details are in the show notes here, and also a link to be able to purchase the card deck if they want to, if that's okay, if you'll share that with us.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
I will wish you a wonderful week. It's been great to have you with us. Thank you for listening, and stay being soul confident.